What's poppin', good people? Welcome to Last of the Millennials. We Probably Right, the show that tackles topics on Black culture, popular culture, relationships, and that damn unspoken Black family dynamics.
Yeah. And you may have already thought it, but we gonna say it. So join us on this journey as we share perspectives you can relate to, because, we probably right.
Yeah, because we the shit. But the Last of the Millennials podcast is coming to you just in time, right? Because you always hear so much about millennials, but now we're actually going to set the record straight. Because millennials, we're getting a bad name out here in these COVID streets. Like, most people don't even realize that millennials aren't college aged anymore. We're not teeny boppers. We legit have full grown lives. We're married. We have mortgages. Some of us are still living out our hotels via Jasmine Sullivan. And we have full careers. And so it's really important for us to have a space to share views on topics that we can relate to, and we know that you will too.
100%. I think that being a millennial is the ultimate oxymoron. I mean, millennials are those who are really here left to save the world. We are the only generation who has been able to have witnessed life inside the box, outside the box, all while building that goddamn box.
Simply put, millennials are just the glue between what was and what will be. We are literally the perfect balance, often misunderstood and underestimated. And in case you haven't guessed it by now, we're your host, and I'm Kendra.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Farrelly. So, Kendra, give us the definition so we can set a baseline so that people really understand who millennials are, because everybody got something to say, but we want to make sure the listeners really know.
So in the politically correct terms, the millennials are technically based between 1980 and 1996. But the true millennials are somewhere in between. We are the first to go to college. We're the first with massive amounts of debt. And we're literally, like I said, hanging between the balance of what used to be and what is going to be. So that's the crazy ass Generation Z and the set by strict rules Generation X. And that's what we are.
Absolutely. And so I really appreciate that, because there's really a huge kind of an age gap. It's about 19 years. And so I think millennials have gotten grouped into the generations after us, because we do know, that, my God, we grew up in a different world, but the generation next to us is really coming up in a different kind of world. We still grew up, when we were in college. I think going to college in 2005, Facebook was just coming out. Social media was really just taking on its own life. And now there are so many different social media sites. I remember having a Black Planet page, right? Did y'all have that?
Yeah. Black Planet, where you could set your own little background and change your music every time you was in a different mood. Come on now.
We got the Nokia cell phone where you could play Snake.
Okay.
Kids, they come up, they get PS5s, they got iPhones, they got the latest Android, and it's they don't know the struggle, right?
They don't. Let's think about, go ahead.
I just remember playing outside, right? And we couldn't come in the house because we had to get water out the spigot. They won't have those experiences, right?
Legit, I remember my last day outside playing. Some kids can't even tell you about that. I remember before we had cell phones, you knew where everybody was because all the bikes would be out front. And it was the ultimate betrayal if you were not there. I low-key for real remember my last day out playing outside, and life was never the same.
Yeah. So it's just those things, and that's that kind of millennial perspective. We have a different experience, and the way that we moving throughout the world is much different. But let's move on. What can people expect from Last of the Millennials We Probably Right podcast?
I think that people are probably asking what's different about the Last of Millennials We're Probably Right podcast. And I think It's that we are brave enough to talk about the shit that nobody's going to talk about, like unspoken Black family dynamics. And somehow that can be so toxic to some people. Or, you always hear them phrases, well, that's your mama, well, that's your brother, and you're supposed to just take it on the chin and keep it rolling. And we're going to talk about the truth about that. We're going to talk about popular culture and Black culture, like what's going on with Kirk Franklin and his son, and how that's really not a strange thing to most Black families. I think, Kelsey, you had our relationships with finances.
Yes, let's talk about the family relationship with finances and how we're going to have to talk about this Black tax. It's real, like graduating from college and how being a first generation student, you become the financial guru, you become the most educated, you become everything to everybody, and what that looks like having to pay that. I'm also so excited, super excited to talk about the real deep down, is blood really thicker than water? That family dynamic is going to be real tasty. And also, in more Black culture, are all Black people Christians or not? Because the people want to know. The people want to know. I think this is going to be so tasty. And I think we're going to talk about the things that people often think but are afraid to say. But today we're going to uncover this wagon and get to it.
Right. And so our first episode that we're going to cover, we're going to get into millennial dating versus court. And is there really a difference? We're going to get into the women's perspective, the man's perspective, and even orientation. And that launch date is going to be April 3rd. 2021. That'll be available to you by 10 a.m. on April 3rd on all social media platforms. Farrelly, tell them where they can find us.
Yeah, so anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we are going to be there. So make sure you tune in, tell a friend, make sure you subscribe, set your alarm. Just tell a friend, because the last of the Millennials podcast is here, and we're definitely going to bring you some fresh content. But before you go, make sure you like and share and follow us on all social media outlets at We Probably Right or Last of the Millennials on Facebook. And be sure to subscribe to our email list. And so I think that's about it until next time. So we'll see you on episode 1. This has been Farrelly,
Kendra,
Kelsey, and We Probably Right.